All right, we're going to get started. Thanks for joining us, everybody. How's everybody feeling? Day 3. You are here at Brand Storytelling, and my name is Olivia Tincani. I'm the program curator for IAC and SWGLA's Meat to Market program, and this course is part of that. I think y'all know a little bit about IAC at this point, but the Southwest Grass-Fed Livestock Alliance, or SWGLA, is a nonprofit alliance of ranchers, consumers, chefs, and land managers who work together to support local grass-fed livestock products in the Southwest through producer support and education and consumer and chef outreach. And the Meat to Market program is a partnership between SWGLA and IAC, and we have been running an extensive online business training for native livestock producers all across Indian country, encouraging you to embrace the possibility of direct marketing your meat and providing the skills to do so. We started with about 2 years of design and development and a long needs assessment phase. And then for the last year, we've been presenting online workshops. We've got about 30 total in the Meat to Market course. We kicked off last year at the IAC conference with, for those of you that were here, with a pretty awesome meat butchery demo and a couple of other workshops. And then this is our 4th workshop in this conference. So happy to have y'all here. We are rounding it out. We have webinars about twice a month. We're rounding them out in early 2024. Our next ones will happen in February and March, so we're on a little hiatus. They are all recorded. They are all free. They're all available on the Mighty Networks platform, which is IAC's e-learning platform that you can link through the website. Under resources, you'll find Meat to Market, and then through that, you'll link over to Mighty Networks. So you can pick and choose what you'd like to learn. We really touch a very vast gamut of topics covering the whole back end of your business. There's also a flyer up here with the QR code. I encourage you all to sign up for future Meat to Market announcements, and it tells you a little bit about what's upcoming next year. We also have a pretty unique experience next year in 2024. For those of you that are based in the Southwest, we are offering, or SWGLA is supporting through a Climate Smart Commodities grant, one-on-one technical assistance with me. It's 10 hours of free business advising. We hang out for as long as you want. And there's another flyer up here if you're interested in being nominated for that. We do have a few slots. So that is most of my intro, and I'm going to have our speakers introduce themselves. I do want to say that there is one speaker in the program, Lailani Upham, who at the last minute was not able to join us today. She had a family urgency that she had to attend to, and these 2 ladies have done a beautiful job of adapting swiftly, so I have no doubt that this presentation will be just as powerful without her, but I did want to recognize her. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Michele and Kim, and they're going to introduce themselves. Thanks to y'all for being here.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Awesome. Thanks for coming. My colleague and farmer in arms, Kimberly Ratcliff, is joining us today. And I want to just talk about storytelling that is the heart of your business. Humans have been using the art of storytelling since the beginning of time to preserve history, to engage with family, friends, and even enemies, and also communicate their values. Everyone has a story. So if I asked you, what's your story? How did you become the person that you are today? What would you say? I want this to be a little interactive right now. So I'm going to come over here. What would you say? Is that an impossible question to answer? Is it difficult? Is it easy? What would you say? Where do you start? Exactly, right? Where do you start? That's a great acknowledgement that sometimes it's difficult to even tell your own story, your personal story. And, I know that this is a little bit of a rhetorical question that we'll dive into a little bit later, but no matter what or how we present ourselves and our business, there's a story behind it. Storytelling is one of those things that humans use in present day for marketing, right? We use it to sell products attract customers, engage with stakeholders. And we're here today to have a conversation and hopefully share some things with you that you can think about as you build the heart of your brand. I want to ask another quick question. How many people in the room already have a brand? How many people are in the process of developing a brand or want to develop a brand? Great. So we've got a little bit of diversity in the room, which I think is great. So now that you've kind of told us a little bit about yourselves, not really, we're going to tell you a little bit about us. So I'm going to go first, and then I'm going to invite Kimberly to share a little bit about what she's doing and who she is. But my name is Michele Thorne, and I'm the executive director of the Good Meat Project by choice. I'm a graphic designer and strategic marketer by trade, and I'm a soon-to-not-be small producer in Oregon by destiny. I put my money where my mouth is and support local producers by purchasing meat from them. I work in partnership with many amazing collaborators to help build and cultivate strong, resilient food systems that invest in healthy land, animals, and people. And I'm an aspiring drummer. So that's a little bit about me. I'm going to hand over the mic so Kimberly can tell you a little bit about her.
I might not be as articulate as her. My name is Kimberly Ratcliff. I live in Houston, Texas. I manage my family operation where we raise Charbray cattle, and we raise also commercial herd, where we try to raise them in the most sustainable way possible. I own Ratcliff Premium Meat, and I manage the family operation. So many people can have that correlation of trying to manage both of them. So where we sell our products in many aspects. So I'm going to leave it there because my story is about the ranch, right? I'm not going to go into the brand story yet. I'm just going to go into who I am right now. So I'm Kimberly Ratcliff. I manage Caney Creek Ranch. I'm owner of Ratcliff Premium Meats. And my favorite hobby is horseback riding. That's who I am.
Thank you. So I want to also share a little bit about the Good Meat Project. So the Good Meat Project is, and I don't have the text on this slide, but I will just tell you a little bit about that. Our mission statement, so before I even tell you what our mission statement is, what happens when people are telling their brand stories, if I said, because you raised your hand and said you have a brand, is that correct? If I asked you, what's your brand story, what would you tell me?
Family, community, and Brangus cattle.
Okay, that was a nice short, say it again. Family, community, and Brangus. Brangus cattle. I've never even heard of that variety. You're teaching me something today. See? Did you see what else came out there? Tell me again.
We're the fifth largest breed in the United States.
Fifth largest breed in the United States. That's information, right, about your brand. So in comparison, I'll tell you my mission statement, because I think when a lot of people talk about, when they're asked, hey, what's the story of your brand? People give their mission statement. And I want to just do this as a comparison. I don't know if that was your mission statement, but it was just right off the top of your head, right? So the mission statement for the Good Meat Project is we're on a mission to catalyze marketplace innovation, connection, and education across the meat supply chain in order to increase the economic viability and ecological impact of livestock farmers who invest in healthy land, animals, and people. Excuse me. I'm so not a microphone girl. I feel like I should start performing. But I want to just make this comparison. You heard the mission statement. But there are two kinds of stories in branding. One is your origin story. That's how you do what you do, how you got to where you are, how you started doing what you do. right? You added some of that in your brand story, right? Family business, family legacy story that inspired the creation of the business. These are the essential features or things that help you define your journey in your business. So that's an origin story. The other is your brand story. And your brand story is your why. So it's what makes your brand unique. It's the core value or belief that you share with all of your audience, not just one segment of your audience, but your entire audience. Using that core value or belief is the heart that builds relationships with your customers. So the why speaks directly to your customer or the customer that you hope to acquire, right? Sometimes we're looking forward at customers that we want to acquire. Sometimes we're talking to customers that we already have. But we're going to focus on the why a little bit today. So does anybody not understand the difference between the origin story and the brand story? One is the how, the other is the why. And feel free to ask any clarifying questions as I'm going through this. So, I'm going to invite my colleague up here again to share her brand's origin story of Ratcliff Family Meats.
So Ratcliff Premium Meat was created by myself and my siblings due to, this is going to be a longer version, so forgive me, due to my brothers pretty much stealing meat from the family ranch. So I said, we're going to create Ratcliff Family Meat. So that's the origin on how we created Ratcliff Family Meat. Now, the brand is also created due to my location where I am situated at. So Ratcliff Premium Meats is located in the highest population of Black producers. So my brand is to support those Black producers by buying their product, which is cattle, and telling their story through Ratcliff Premium Meats. So that's how I created Ratcliff Premium Meats, is from family and from community.
So I have a follow-up question. What are some details about how it came to be? I know it came out of your brother. What was he stealing meat? Is that what you said? But how did you decide when you were creating your brand, the origin of it? What was the thing that you decided as a family to say, we're going to do this thing?
Right. So the thing that decided is my story is a little bigger. That's what I'm saying. So I went from Wall Street to the ranch. So I worked on Wall Street, and I decided to leave Wall Street due to the disconnect between the financial institution and the ranching community. And that is also part of the Ratcliff Premium Meat, because I want to create that, kind of eliminate that disconnect from there. So that was number one. And then number two, I wanted to make sure that my ranch was generational. I am the one that decided to come back to the ranch, not my brothers. What can I do to make that community that my brothers want to come back to? And meat was the key thing, because we all love meat. So the brand was created due to wanting to create that generational wealth and generational family business. And the way I knew it is everyone loved meat. My brothers don't necessarily like to come back to the ranch, but they love to eat the meat off the ranch, right? So what can I do to include them in the family Ratcliff Premium Meats? That doesn't necessarily mean that they have to produce the meat, but they sell it. They tell the family story of what I just said. We're community driven. We want to be generational. And then they help take it to the market. And all of that story, to me, I always say adds flavor to the meat. Because then when people envision eating that meat, they're going back to saying, hey, I met this family that wants to be generational. And I will add one other thing that helped create Ratcliff Premium Meat brand. Originally, we were called Farm to Freezer Meat Company. My story has gotten a lot of media coverage. I have been on Magnolia TV. I have done a John Deere commercial. I've done a Merck commercial. I've done some other media stuff. And when they did the media, they would say the Ratcliff family. They wouldn't say Farm to Freezer Meat Company. So in my mind, I had to change my brand to meet what the media was saying about the family, to help the brand sell. So I moved it, I transitioned from Farm to Freezer to Ratcliff Premium Meat.
Perfect place to pause. So what we heard is Kimberly, Wall Street, to rancher in Texas, multi-generational, right? Meat products, aggregator, right? Started one business, transitioned to a different brand name with a new logo, right? That is the origin story of Ratcliff Premium Meats. Would you say that I got that? Okay. So that is the story that you might tell when someone says, tell me about your brand. Let me ask you this. How many of you are motivated to learn more? That's great. How many of you are ready to maybe take action doing something? Do you feel like it gave you what you were looking for? Be honest, because there's a second part to this, right? We're just talking about the origin story, and I really want to drive this point home. That the origin story, although inspiring to me, maybe inspiring to you, several of you that are here that just heard that, didn't even know this existed, didn't even know Kimberly existed, right? Inspiring. However, we need to understand the difference between the features of a brand and the benefits that are realized by the people who engage with your brand. That's what makes the difference. So in other words, your origin story, your practices, your systems, your staff, and your products don't always lead to a sale. Does that make sense? And that's what we're doing here, right? We're in business for ourselves. We're entrepreneurs. We're trying to sell our products. We're trying to attract new customers. What makes a customer decide to purchase from you? Is it that you raise pastured meat, or maybe it's conventional, maybe it's a family ranch, started in 2017? What is the thing that makes people decide, I think I want to buy some meat from this producer? Anybody? What makes somebody take their card out or give you some cash to purchase your product? Okay, so that is experiential, right? That happens after the sale, unless you're sampling, right? How do you get them to even get to that point? There's no wrong answer here, by the way. Say it again. So this is the brand story. And what is a feel-good story kind of rooted in? I want you to say that really loud, Jeremy.
I'm not buying from a big box producer. I'm buying from a local family and helping them one-on-one.
Okay. That is an example of a core value. I don't want this because it doesn't resonate with my core values as a customer, and that's your brand. So now you've just made a connection with me as a potential customer with your brand because you told me a core value that resonates with me. Does that make sense? There's a difference. So understanding that difference is really critical. Here's a statistic. Branded stories lead to a 4% increase in trust and brand connection. So read that as good brand storytelling leads to better engagement. That's people interacting with you and your brand. That's increased trust. People make purchasing decisions based on a lot of economic factors, right? Like price constraints. They make decisions based on preference, willingness, and ability to pay the price that you're asking, and so on. But what retains customers is what? Core values, shared values, things that they can connect with that can make a difference in their life, right? So, my question is going to go back to my colleague, Kimberly. And I want you to focus on a defining storytelling moment, right? For you, for Ratcliff Premium Meats, as you're building this brand.
So for me, my core value, number one, is really talking about how I purchase my cattle. You were saying earlier that people do not want the traditional box beef, big 3, big 4 meat. So my core value is how am I helping the economy, local economy, because I'm not 100% of the cattle aren't off my ranch. All right, in order for me to sustain my end user, I have to buy some local cattle because I do sell some wholesale. So I have to buy local cattle. So my story is the economy in my community I am trying to support. And I am trying to build my community by buying local cattle and funneling it through my business. So Can I just sure
encapsulate that? The core value there, thank you. The core value in that statement is economic viability of your community. That's your core value. That's what's driving your story. It's driving your business. It's connecting with consumers that matters to, right? And it's not just one of your target audiences, your buyers or your producers, your cattle producers, right? It's not just your accounts, right? It's very local, economically driven. I want to support the economic viability of my community. That is a core value. That's all I want to say.
Absolutely. It's a good tag team. She kind of translates what I'm saying. My second core value is the reason why I came home. I said the disconnect between where I was at, and I'll expand a little bit on that story. So when I worked at Bloomberg, I was marketing and public relations. I didn't tell you where I work, now you know. I was public and marketing. And the one thing that got me is in the marketing scope, they want this marketing material in a split second. They want it either on their financial platform or they want it in any other kind of visible way that they can get this information. And then I also was on the other side with my family. And how long does it take to grow a cow? And butcher it and all that, it takes 18 to 20 months. So a product that's taken me 18 to 20 months, they want to make a decision within a split second. So that became my core value also, is how am I going to bridge that gap in education to let them understand that this product is really a magnificent product that's like fine wine. It takes a while for us to make this product for you to really enjoy to the point that, you know, you want to come back and buy my product again. So that education side of bridging that gap. And the good thing is I have those connections that I'm able to kind of show what we're doing on our side and how ag producers are really taking value in how we grow our cattle. So that was how I showed value. How am I growing my cattle on a daily basis so you can make that split-second decision? And that split-second decision in your mind, you're thinking about how I'm growing it now. You're not just thinking about that split-second decision anymore. So how am I growing my cattle? I'm growing them by using silage-based product. I use a little bit of grain that's my way I'm doing it. So I'm using forage within my community, forage that I'm growing every day, adding some grain to it, growing a product that hopefully those financial people will want to eat.
I'm going to interject again and identify the core value there. You talked about practices, silage, right? The things that are important to your brand that you communicate in your story. The question that I would raise is that important to consumers who are ready to buy your product? The core value that I heard in that was beyond the economic viability. It's still, so the core value that I identified was vertically integrated, right? It's local, hyper-local. The other one was, and this is big, so I'm going to not go off the rails a little bit, but I want to share a little bit of research with you. So several years ago, the Good Meat Project absorbed the Grass-Fed Alliance. And through that partnership, we were able to do a lot of consumer insight research. What we found that consumers really care about, it's two things. Do you want to guess? Price? Kind of, but no. Nope. 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 Anyone? Consumers care about taste. They care about flavor. That's what gets them to say, and you said it earlier, right? That gets them to be a recurring customer, for example, right? Because it just tastes so good. The other is value, not necessarily price, right? Because price, although it is an indication of value, it is not value, because that's so subjective. Value is different for everyone. Some of your customers might be like, you know what? I can pay a premium price for a subscription box that is going to deliver 50 pounds of meat to me every quarter for my family. And I can pay $10, $12 a pound for that, right? But not everybody can do that, which I'll take another step back and say that part of branding and marketing is understanding who your customer is. How many people in this room who have a brand has done consumer research? 2, 3. So critical. It is something that I would highly recommend investing in. The time, whether it's time and or money, it will pay dividends over and over and over again. And I'll tell you why. When you understand who you're talking to, who you're telling this brand story to, who you are trying to craft messaging that resonates with them, and you're building this brand, if you're talking over their head, you're talking past them, you're not connecting with them, you're not building a relationship with them, that is a waste of time and money, and you will just get frustrated. You'll be wondering, why isn't my marketing working? And then you'll have to pay big bucks for people like me to help you. So I can't say it enough times, like really, if you are serious about building a brand, you're building a business, right? You're looking at financials, but you're also, and I understand that producers aren't marketers. I acknowledge that. But that's why I'm here. That's why the Good Meat Project is here. And I'm going to talk about some of the resources that we have available for producers, but I want to get to a question right here.
Yeah, Benita lives in,
Hi, Benita.
our family does grass-fed beef on Navajo. And our goal at the beginning was to try to produce foods that could stay local in on our reservation. But when it came to marketing, and figuring out what the cost of return would be, because the butcher shop is like 3 hours away and just everything is expended. It was so hard to do, and our prices are too high for our own native folks. So our clientele is off-res folks. And so we're struggling with our mission of feeding our own people. But we're still playing around with the idea of how do we make that work longer term. I mean, it's working fine for our operation, but our intent was to hopefully keep our meat local to our people, but we're not making that work.
That's a great question. It's multi-layered, right? Because you're asking a little bit of a business structure question, because you have one audience which is on reservation. You know that customer, right? You know what their price constraint is. You could probably anticipate what their volume is for your business. And then you have this other customer that is off reservation that has the ability and willingness to pay you a premium for it. But for you as the producer, that's a higher cost. And now you're trying to figure out what's the ROI? Is it worth doing this? So that is a little bit of a different question than a branding question, but what I would say is when you understand your target audiences, you can structure the offer. I wouldn't separate the brands, but I would say, so there could be a way that you could think about how that market that is willing to pay a premium can subsidize the cost of what you sell on reservation. You can maybe provide some structure in what your offer is to on reservation. Maybe there's a quantity cap to that you know your pricing, you know your profit margin. And then in your branding, as you tell your story off reservation, you connect with those core values, right, of the customers that want to support meat produced by native folks, that has this message that resonates with them. It's something that you and they have identified that they want. And it's up to you as the brand to communicate that. I mean, there's other pieces too, right? Like, how do you get those customers? How do you get those customers right now? Do you have a website? Do you have a mailing list? An email list? How many people are on it? Okay. So I would say to that, and here's a little marketing freebie for you, that I would say it's so important to think about the life cycle of your business, especially in a world where things are done online, people communicate digitally. It is so important to build your list. That is the lifeline of your online business, whether it's a hybrid, even if you're not doing a lot of digital marketing per se, you're not selling through your website, but you're engaging with people because that's how people engage now, which I want to ask you about that in a second. But just to round that out, so you have this core audience off reservation. You have this asset of a mailing list already. If it's just one person, or it's 100, or it's 1,000, those people are your best customers. Those are the people that have given you permission that allow you to engage with them. So now it's on you to be able to craft your messaging, share your core values with these people in a newsletter once a month, whatever the pace is, right? And be able to think through what your offer is. Because your goal at the end of the day, no matter how great your story is, if it doesn't turn into dollars, you're out of business.
And I just want to kind of give an example personally of something very similar. I also, my community, I want to feed, right? So a lot of my customer, those high-end cuts, I do specialized packages for other customers, and those high-end cuts are always going. So I always have something left over, and that's what I'm donating to my community. So every quarter, I'm donating something to my community that I can kind of tax write off. So how
did your story impact the growth of your business?
So it is a great question. And it's hard to quantify the growth. We were talking about that earlier. But my story, again, I'm going back to being on several media platforms. I was approached by a media company to tell my story via several platforms. And my story is a little bigger than just going from Wall Street to ranch. We're not going to go to the nitty-gritty of all the in-betweens of going to Wall Street to ranch. But there were some struggles for me. I'm a Black woman, let's be honest, in a meat processing, meat industry, and many of you guys can relate to this, right? So I kind of told my stories of all those barriers of getting into this type of industry and a media platform. And that allowed a lot of me to have an opportunity to do a lot of social media outlets. I was able to really expand my website where I was able to collect a lot of emails, a lot of telephone numbers. So I do a lot of telephone, those blasts that you probably hate in text messaging, that some people hate, some people love. But my database is thousands now, just from people going to my website and gathering information from there. And I'm at the farmer's market, grabbing from the farmer's market. And when I have my credit card machine and people charge, I have a little checkbox, do you want to continue this communication? And it allowed me to create this huge database that I'm able to use in several forms. It's Christmas time. I have a jerky package. Do you want jerky for your stocking stuffer? You know, oh yeah, I do. I love jerky in my stocking stuffer. Click on this link on your phone and now you can get all these different jerkies on your stocking stuffer. Who likes turkey? Why don't you have a ribeye roast for Christmas? What's turkey? You know, I'm able to get a little creative. I don't eat turkey. I eat a ribeye roast every year. So I send that message out via several media outlets. So to get those products into individuals that normally I can't get the product into, and before you know it, it's spreading among that community that has a text message, the email, and social media. And I'm very creative in my social media. I try to, and that's a whole nother conversation, but we won't get into that. But there's ways in social media to be very creative where you can reach other outlets also. So you really, nowadays, since we are local, small, in our community, the only way to get this words out beyond our community is by using these outlets and using advantage of a website. And a website doesn't have to be that technical. A website, email, and a text message service. But email is really probably the easiest because text message service does cost a little bit. But email is really one of the great resources to use. But you have to have a platform to collect that data. If you don't have that platform, then you're going to end up not being able to probably sell to different demographics that you're looking for.
I also want to just clarify that marketing online isn't the only way. There's a lot of in-person, offline marketing, is what they call it, that you can also do. You can have a hybrid of those things if you're doing farmers markets. People aren't going to your website. They're engaging with you directly. What kind of information are you sharing with them? Do they walk away with a printed piece? Are you spending time talking to them saying, hey, I'd love to, if you're interested in our products, I'd love to send you an email, put you on my newsletter email list. That's a hybrid model. If you're just doing in-person marketing, right, then you think about printed pieces. You think about collaborations with other producers, right, that are complementary to what you're doing. Marketing is not hard. But marketing is hard. Wrap your mind around that. There's a lot of pieces in marketing, which is why producers kind of get exhausted. And I'm a producer myself. I raise small livestock. We won't even talk about that because I said it's soon to not be a producer because I have a full-time job. But there are a couple of ways that you can level up your marketing with help from the Good Meat Project. So, these resources that I'm going to share with you are 100% free. Doesn't everybody like the freemium economy? So, we have a program called our Farm In program. It's our Farmer and Rancher Marketing Innovation Network, and the goal is to increase economic viability and positive ecological impact. In this program, we have several assets and tools. One is the Marketing Fundamentals course for Good Meat producers. This is a 12-plus hour pre-recorded course that you can take at your own pace. It's so comprehensive if you really want to understand from building a brand and a logo and really learning how to build a marketing calendar. How do you build an email marketing calendar? How do you build a social media calendar? What are your promotions that you're going to do throughout the year? Because if you fail to plan, you what? It's a fail. Can I get a meat amen for that? That's just the reality. You have to plan. But this course has so many wonderful downloads that are free. And I'll run through these really quickly. So we also have trade promotional toolkits. One of them is the Local Meat, Local Flavor Trade Promotion. This is also a digital download where there's a media kit, promotional playbook, content guide, design assets, images, and marketing resources, what we call in marketing done for you. You don't really have to do that much. You just sign up for it online, you take a little survey, and then you can use this, especially if you're selling direct-to-consumer whole animal. This is great. And local meat is one of your core values, like selling locally. This is a great promotional toolkit. Uh-oh, something happened with the text there, but it's the trade promotion, which is the real burger of Earth Day. This is our most popular trade promotion, and it leads up to Earth Day, which is in April, so it's coming up soon. It's free to producers. If you're looking for a way to promote your ground meat, this is one of the most perfect promotions, right? It gives you access to calendars, planners, graphics, social media graphics, templates, text, all of the above. And then we also do peer-to-peer education. We have these events called the Lowdown. Does anybody know Sean Lenahan up in Washington? He's a bison producer. We've had Jamie Agger from Hickory Nut Gap. We've had Alex Miller from Lick Skillet in Tennessee. He's actually one of our moderators. Tim Joseph from Maple Hill Creamery. These people are powerhouses. They've built incredible businesses, and we come together 6 times a year, 3 times in the spring, 3 times in the fall. They're recorded, they're free. You can ask questions. It's an amazing resource where you can actually talk to producers, whether you want to learn about building an online brand or you want to learn about pricing for profit. This is an incredible resource. And lastly, and I heard a lot about this in some of these sessions where there's this disconnect between educating consumers. How many people have that problem? Educating consumers. It's a heavy lift sometimes, right? Because people don't listen, they don't follow the rules, they just, whatever. Here are some tools, free, that you can use on the Good Meat Breakdown. This helps, it's a resource for consumers to help them find, buy, store, and cook meat. There's also other toolkits that we have. So if you're raising cattle, pigs, sheep, or goat, we have these PDFs that you can download for free, send them to your consumers or print them out that help consumers understand, oh, well, how much freezer space do I need if I'm buying a quarter? How much yield am I going to get from a half? Consumer education is a gap, and it's resources like these that you can use for free. Did I say for free? That you can use to help build your brand and build your business. And that's it. I'm going to stop there because I think we want to be able to have people ask questions, but I appreciate you listening to our stories. And we hope that you find value in this. And if you need help building your story and your brand, we're here to help.
I just want to make one little plug before we ask questions that Michele will also be leading, and her team will be leading 2 workshops for Meat to Market in the spring on direct-to-consumer marketing, where we're really going to get into some of the things that y'all were starting to talk about in terms of the brass tacks of marketing initiatives, right? So this is the big picture that will be much more detail-oriented. So there's 2 in March. We don't have the dates yet, but just sign up for Meat to Market announcements and you'll get them.
Free. There's also flyers over there for our programs. And if any of you were in Rebecca Thistlethwaite's NMPAN Meat Business Accelerator, the Good Meat Project is also presenting marketing through that accelerator as well. So.
Any questions? Anyone want to talk about their brand and get a little knowing? Yeah.
2 questions for you.
Oh, go for it.
First, I assume you're selling online.
Correct.
What platform are you using to do your transactions and sell them?
So I am selling online, and I will be honest, I have a private web team that created my website. Because I have changed from farm to freezer to Ratcliff Premium Meats, and I have changed the customers that I'm reaching are still the same customers. But one thing I realized by my own market research from my previous website was customers did not like me to tell them online what they need to buy. Right? Customers wanted to create their own packages. I could not do that with any other platform unless I created my own web platform. So now customers, there's traditional, you got to get rid of that ground beef and all that other product. So there's a percentage of the product that's there, but then I have like a little cow, and they can navigate the cow and finish their package the way they want to finish it.
How are you reasonably priced shipping?
Right. It is a huge... Yes. Shipping was a huge one for me. I used to just do a flat fee, $50. And, customers would do it. I've used a platform called VNDR. I don't know what it stands for. And they actually, to ship like a package either 2 days or even overnight. Overnight was $27, $25. Yeah. So I would highly recommend VNDR, and I incorporate it into the price. The average price, I realized from being online for 3 years, my average price is like $32, including the box and the dry ice. So it's easier to incorporate that into the price than to try to add shipping. Because shipping, then they're like, oh gosh, that's shipping, I don't want to pay it. But if you incorporate it in price, they're not going to really think about the shipping. So really consider that, but also try to get your shipping down as much as possible. Like my boxes end up costing me $4. Like I end up really researching places, and I'm working with my neighbor. I'm not 100% grass-fed, but my neighbor is, and I'm a real believer. There's a market for everyone in here. If you're grass-fed, if you're whatever you are, there's a market for you in here. I support her. She supports me. We buy dry ice together. We buy boxes together. So it's gotten my price down. We were able to buy 1,000 boxes together, and I was able to get my price down to $4 a box. So I really be friends with people that sell the same product as you. Collaboration.
I just want to make sure everybody heard that next spring's lowdown, which is their super cool conversations, is going to be on shipping.
It's February, March, and April are the 3 lowdowns that will happen in the spring. And one of them is going to be talking about shipping.
And the Niche Meat Processors Assistance Network has an excellent webinar on shipping, really detailed. Producers talking about exactly what they do. If you kind of have to navigate into the annals of all of their webinars and their videos, but it's on there. And it's just about shipping. Meat.
For me? Uh-huh.
Market research, consumer research is extremely difficult to do as an individual business because it's expensive. And what is the question I need to be asking to get to the answer that helps me move forward is oftentimes one of the most difficult things. I do agritourism for people, and so I'm always looking for ways for them to coattail onto someone else's efforts like Kimberly's doing with the boxes. Is there some sort of consumer research for meat consumption or fresh fruit, some sort of place where a person can go that the information is free or at a low cost to kind of farm that research a little to get what they need?
Great question. So you're either going to spend time or you're going to spend money. If you don't have money, then you're going to spend time. Research is free thanks to Google, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. If you have access to any of those platforms, you can do consumer research. And you should. It's kind of like sleuthing a little bit, right? Because, and just to take a step back, what is it that you want to learn about your target audience? You have to start with that question. What do I want to learn about who these people are? Is it demographic information? Is it purchasing behavior? Is it psychographic information? You ideally should have all of those things, right? Which you can learn by looking at who's following who, what are people posting, what do people care about? Right here brings in the core values, right? If you know that the target customer that you're looking for loves agro-tourism, you can build an avatar for that person, demographics, age, gender, right? The basics, income, disposable income, do they have children? How many times a week do they go shopping, or how many times a year do they do farm tours, right? And you can get a lot of information for free. You just have to do the work, and you have to ask the right questions. So it's really important to start with, what do I need to know about the person I'm trying to reach? That's how you identify a target audience. And you have to ask those questions of yourself, like, who's my ideal customer? Do they have a lot of money, right? Or do they have disposable income? How do they spend their money? And you really have to get in the mind of your consumer. It doesn't mean that every consumer target audience is going to have the same demographic profile, because most businesses have multiple avatars. Kimberly's business has multiple avatars. She's not just selling direct to consumer. I don't know if you're selling, yeah, you are in your subscription, but you're also selling wholesale, right? So those are two different target audiences that require two different messages, but they share the core value. That's the whole point of this presentation, right? In storytelling, you identify that core value, then you can start to build out your avatars and you can say, okay, well, I know I'm talking to this person, this individual, they like this, they do this, they have this much money, and then you can craft your message for your product to that person, and whether you decide to do it in your newsletter, you do it on your social media, like those things are tactics, right? But you have to step back from that. Marketing doesn't start with tactics. It starts with strategy. It starts with planning. And you have to do that in order to make it effective and efficient and understand, well, if I'm going to do this initiative, and somebody asked a question about ROI earlier, how do you measure that? Can you make an Instagram post and then be like, oh, somebody bought $100 worth of stuff? No, it's not that linear. Which is why it's so important to have your consumer avatars, to have your strategy. You got to know what you're trying to accomplish. How many tour tickets do you need to sell to break even? How many tour tickets do you need to sell to make a profit? If I need to sell 100 tour tickets or 100 boxes or 100 carcasses, whatever it is, you got to know your numbers in order to be able to lay on top of that your marketing plan. And you got to know your seasons. So that's why I said in the beginning, marketing isn't hard, but it's hard because there are a lot of moving pieces. Yeah.
Just from a personal note, I wanted to kind of talk about how I kind of created my own marketing research. Every industry has beef checkoff money. There's a lot of research in those beef checkoff money about our consumers. You just have to be willing to go through that checkoff website and getting that demographic of your consumers. Because we, as consumers, have to provide $1 for whatever product we're selling, or it could be some monetary value of whatever product we're selling. It's going into a checkoff that is doing research. So that's a good way to start too. It's looking at those websites where those checkoff dollars are being used.
I've also had people look at their competition and say, where are they advertising? Why, what are they doing?
Yeah.
And you just follow what they're doing until you get the hang of it.
It's true.
You can see how many posts do they put up on Facebook, how many Instagram, whatever it is they're doing, how much do they do of it, and then follow it.
I would add to that, though, that's an incredible strategy because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. But you do have to keep in mind your own capacity. You can't always do what somebody else is doing if they're posting 5 times a week. Like, if that's not your style, which also, again, ties into what does your consumer want? Do they want to hear from you every day?
So it goes back to your core values as well, because those values appeal to that market.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You got to know your customer. And you got to be able to speak to them in the language that they understand. Yeah. We're over time. Thank you. Yeah.